A powerful multi-state storm has unleashed torrential rain, destructive winds and landscape flooding across the United States, forcing evacuation and leaving millions of aid. Meteorologists say the system, which developed over the Gulf before sturgily northwest, have intensified. Police describe it as alarmingly fast. In Oklahoma and Missouri, floodwaters swept through the roads and residential area overnight. Rescue teams walking in near zero visibility. A rising water trapped motorists in their vehicles. It felt like a wall whose house was shaking. It threw the windows could explode, said Linda Ray, a resident of Tulsa, who shattered the killed 2 children in the railway. The storm's field has exact biting dramatically. Gusts exceeded 19 millihours. Dropped transformation tower, triggering power down gears and flooding nearly 6,000 homes in the darkness from the Texas in Ohio. Several hospitals switched to emergency generator after lightning strikes caused petrol system failure. Airport in Chicago and Dallas and Atlanta posted several disruptions, with more than 1,400 flights delayed as pilots struggled against violent crossfire. Videos posted online showed begin craft runway across a runway in airport, staff fighting to rescue equipment. Meanwhile, the National Weather Service confirmed multiple tornado touchdowns, including that covered half-mile path into destruction through the rural Arkansas. Several described burns shattered like paper and vehicles tossed into ditches. Climate analysts warn it could be parts of growing pattern. We are witness storms and yield with the energy level capable in a nearly season hurricane, said Dr. Marcus O'Neill, a leading atmospheric researcher. Their frequency and intensity are no longer anomaly. They are becoming in the new normal. Authorities continue to urge residents to stay indoors, avoid flooded streets, and stock essential supply to storm pushed towards northwest, threatening millions more with the dangerous conditions. A powerful hailstorm swept across parts of the central United States late Tuesday, leaving behind a trail of destruction that circled from Oklahoma to Kansas. The storm filled the fast-moving cold front colding with the warm, humid air from the Gulf of Mexico. Powdered hailstorm as large as a baseball as wind gusts exceeded 100 km/h. Meteorologists described the event as one of the most intense of the season. This was a textbook supercell outbreak, said Dr. Lila Jenkins from the National Weather Service. The size and density of the hailstorm caused significant structure damage even of reinforced rooftops. Residents in several towns reported shattered car windows, stripped trees, and power outage that left thousands in the darkness overnight. In Norman, Oklahoma, emergency crew responded to dozens of calls as the hail pressed through the skylights and flooded streets. It sounded like someone was throwing rocks by the house of hail an hour, said local resident Jason Miller. Air travel was also disrupted. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport reported more than 200 flights delayed. Washington is assessing the damage after the parent Pacific storm flooding in low-lying area and dumping heavy snow on the Cascade, flooded landslides and hailstorm widespread power outage along the Cherub and Snohomish River. Gullet exceeded flooded stage overnight, flooded farms and isolated rural communities. The water rose like 10 train, said Alicia turned in a mountain barrel. They moved lay livestock to chain parking to them. Water reached to barn door. In Seattle, Tacoma, gust of winds broken branches to poles, hitting light rail service and canceling dozens of flights, where cleanup crews speed up across the major roads. Poor cancellation spread throughout the Puget Sound and the coastal town of Joaquin to Long Beach, strategically to deal the waves spurted over the temporary embankments. High in the mountains, snowglades and Devon Pass become bottlenecks. Overturns drag, avalanches buries and change require for travel along statements. Consider it a clear shoe may occur without warning. Warning, VS.OT spokesman Caleb Morita. Models showed the possibility of the rapid intensification, a major hurricane of air rain moving west-northwest, increasing uncurrent from the island communities in the East Caribbean, and a rapid likelihood of dangerous wave of the currents along the U.S. East Coast. Even the Storm Center reminded the offshore emergency management emphasizing the dangerous hurricane conditions. Large waves, coastal erosions, and life-threatening currents can occur before the far from any landfall. Follow in-case advisory survive probably through the arrival times. Gulf and southwestern flood risk outside in the eye, along with the tropical threat to separate area of concentrated moisture, the West Gulf and the advanced coastal area in the causing heavy slow-moving showers. Flooding reminds of the leading cause normally in tropical system when the weak tropical disbalance can cause flash flooding in urban corridor in low-lying coastal plains. Local medical service in the Personal Gulf and the southeast prioritize flood prevention, clearing drainage system, precautions pump, and updating evacuation notice for vulnerable communities. In the West Meteorological are monitoring an unusual August atmospheric river heading toward the Seattle area that could bring heavy rain in the fire-affected area to mountain terrain. For firefighters, that rain double-edged sword, it can help extinguish active fires but also increasing the risk dangerous runoffs, mudslides, and rapid rise in water level in small streams. Authorities have urged caution to flood-prone cyclone and reminded residents living near the affected areas to be alert to changing conditions. Climatologists say this season activity in the parts and broad patterns, rising sea surface temperature and unusual atmospheric conditions to increasing to falling storms and may be changing to nature of precipitation, making heavy downpour more common in increasing the danger to the coastal area. The NOAA seasonal forecast continued to predict increasing tropical activity this year, reminding communities to need the rainfall evacuation plans, secure board and unsure outdoor items to prepare emergency kits. Investments in resilience infrastructure, from improving urban drainage to stable rivers coastal defense, are becoming to correctional priority as emergency services seek to balance immediate response to long-term adaptation. In the West Meteorological are monitoring an unusual August atmospheric river heading toward the Seattle area that could bring heavy rain in the fire-affected area to mountain terrain. For firefighters, that rain double-edged sword, it can help extinguish active fires but also increasing the risk dangerous runoffs, mudslides, and rapid rise in water level in small streams. Authorities have urged caution to flood-prone cyclone and reminded residents living near the affected areas to be alert to changing conditions. Climatologists say this season activity in the
spots and broad patterns, a rising sea surface temperature and unusual atmospheric conditions to increasing to falling storms and may be changing to nature of precipitation, making heavy downpour more common in increasing the danger to the coastal area. The NOAA seasonal forecast continued to predict increasing tropical activity this year, reminding communities to need the rainfall evacuation plans, secure both in and secure outdoor items to prepare emergency kits. Investments in resilience infrastructure, from improving urban drainage to stable rivers, coastal defense, are becoming to professional priority as emergency services seek to balance immediate response to long-term adaptation.
Residents along the North California coast are making at least minutes operation on Hurricane Helene stranger its north-southwestern United States. The storm, now a Category 3 hurricane, continues to grand stretch with the sustainable winds of 120 km/h. Forecasts are warning of potentially devastating consequences as Helene moves within the few centimeters of the region. The National Hurricane Center was updated in devastation, warning that Helene could stretch further before the making rainfall. The storm is expected to bring dangerous winds, heavy rain and significant storm surge that could lead to widespread flooding, especially in low-lying areas in the coast. Authorities have issued a hurricane warning for the large parts of the North California coast, urging residents to evacuate to take all necessary precautions. Evacuation orders have already been issued at residents in the outer coast, including popular tourist destinations such as Kiddens Island, Accolade Island. Evacuations shelters have been stopped in the entire of the island, and local authorities are working with the Red Crescent. All organizations provide safe housing to evacuate. Ferry service between the islands have been suspended, and the highway traffic were increasing dramatically, over residents rushing to move island before the conditions deteriorate. North Carolina governor has declared a state of emergency, mobilizing National Guard and other emergency personnel to help with the preparations and a potential recovery. This is a larger and dangerous storm, Cooper asked during press conference.
Washington state is experiencing one of the most severe storms in recent years, which lasted several days, destroyed coastal towns, caused overflow and covered cascades with a heavy snow, prone to hailstone avalanches. Authorities confirmed at least 9 deaths related to the storm, dozens of injuries, and thousands of displaced people in western and eastern Washington state. In the key of Peace Country overlapping streams in the south suburbs, living homes uninhabitable. I lived 40 years and never seen like this, said Howard Kim, the related teacher from Guber. I felt like nature was a redrawing map. Emergency service conduct more than 300 water rescue, many of whom cars abandoned to flooded highways. The Puget Sound region experiencing hurricane force wind that uprooted centrally all trees and damaged power lines. More than 315,000 customers were without power, and a peak this storm and outdoor continued several days in rural communities. Further service was suspended its latent. Washington state is experiencing one of the most severe storms in recent years, which lasted several days, destroyed coastal towns, caused overflow and covered cascades with a heavy snow, prone to hailstone avalanches. Authorities confirmed at least 9 deaths related to the storm, dozens of injuries, and thousands of displaced people in western and eastern Washington state. In the key of Peace Country overlapping streams in the south suburbs, living homes uninhabitable. I lived 40 years and never seen like this, said Howard Kim, the translated teacher from Uber. I felt like nature was redrawing the map. Emergency service conduct more than 300 water rescue, many of whom cars abandoned to flooded highways. The Puget Sound region experiencing hurricane force wind that uprooted century-old trees and damaged power lines. More than 315,000 customers were without power, and a peak this storm and outdoor continued several days in rural communities. Further service was suspended, isolated. Insurance experts estimated the damage could reach hundreds of millions of dollars, making it one of the most expensive hail events in recent Texas history. Fire department across the region responded more than 600 emergency calls, including hose, fires, sparks, and lightning strikes. In Austin, emergency shelters were opening to those displaced by the roof collapse and the flooding caused by the blocked drains. Meteorologists linking the storm and a strong cold front cauldron with the warm, humid Gulf air and the pattern increasingly common during spring and autumn. Dr. Michael Arena, a senior climatologist, warning, Texas has always seen severe storm, but with alarm now they grow in intensity. We're seeing longer hailstones and more frequent supercell formations. Governor Greg Abbott declared a state of emergency in several countries and deployed the National Guard and as the debris accelerate. In a statement, he urged residents to remain vigilant as further thunderstorms are forecast in the coming days. As the light broke since a destruction emerged, shattered skylines, stripped trees and vehicles blanched in ice. Yet among devastation stories and community resilience stood out. Volunteers from neighboring towns arrived with tools, drops and fruit. Texas are through, said firefighters Ryan Galber. In the Fourth War, we rebuilt together stronger than before. Brisbane, green brody, and a white oak brew overflowing stimulation, a rate of devastation scenario. Entire neighborhoods were submerged. Emergency crews performers of 1,400 rescue using e-boats to helicopters to reach extended residents, many trapped off rooftops in the attic spaces. San Antonio and Austin facing flash floods that swept through the major roadway and overwhelming storm drains. In the county, mobile homes were washed away. Downtown Austin was so powerful through a building evacuation and wind gusts exceeded 17 millihours. Schools, hospital, and transit system across the region helped operations. Governor Greg Abbott activated the Texas Devastation of Emergency Management, deployed the National Guard troops, and declared a statewide disaster. This is not an isolated weather event and a climate emergency unfolding in real time, he said during the press conference. The National Weather Service issued level 4 flood warning of much of southwestern and central Texas, warning the continued danger due to extended soil, rising rivers, and further rainfall expected for the lightning storm bands. Climate scientists for the Rice University and University of Texas confirmed the record Gulf temperature helped of the storm's intensity. Meteorologist Dr. Kaizen Lutz said, "We're seeing storms that are rather slower and destructive, all classic signs of the climate change. In the damage assessment, the ongoing by preliminary estimates suggest over $3 billion in losses to infrastructure, agriculture, and private property. As sky begin to clear, tens of thousands of Texans new particularly related to rebuilding homes, communities to sense safety amid the growing weather uncertainty." east of mountains, heavy rain pounding speckled country where water-loaded sloped slid into country roads and basements were flooded in minutes. Hospitals reported a sharp increase in storm-related injury, including forced carbonate moxidons poisoning in indoor-generation and hypothermia among the motorists stranded on the roads. Utility crews restored service in neighborhoods at the time, but the official warning to raking in soil the trees could continue to fall even after sky cleared. Environmentalists think the washed-out travel beds could destroy early established settlements, spawning grounds, undetermined to future recovery. Apple to hope growth in the Yakima Valley assessment standard water to end the damage. With the small related travel inventory, losers are here to holidays. Forecasters linking to even a powerful atmospheric river feeding to deep coastal depressions, ideal conditions to intense, locally exhaled rainfall, with the possibility another front-loading emergency official urged residents to avoid flooded roads, photograph damage, and increasing claiming to keep emergency kit ready. As the immediate threat subside, Washington incident to slow parks, reappearing leaves, subsiding slopes, and strangling state in the first line in the Pacific storm track. The National Weather Service issued dozens of tornado watches with the confirmed reports of tornadoes touchdown in the rural area, Arkansas and Georgia. Footage shared online shows twisted metal outcomes vehicles and both torn apart. Climate scientists warn that such intense systems are becoming more common. Dr. Helena Carter of the Climate Impact Center say warmer heat holds more issue. When this system collided with the cold Canadian front, the result of explosion storms, the extreme rainfall and violent winds. Authority urged residents in the affected areas to remain alert, avoid running through the flooded roads, and prepared for the additional outage and Meteorologists storms moved on to the east coast. For many communities, the cleanup has only just begun, and the full scale of the damage may not be known these days. California is facing for the full force in a historic crisis caused by the flooding. After several days of the continuing rain, rivers have burst their banks, entire areas and underwater, and the state of emergency have been declared from the Los Angeles County and the Sacramento Valley. Official ANU reported dozens of deaths, thousands rescued, and entire town cut off by overflowing reservoirs and a washed-out road. In Monterey County, the Pocho River's down boost forcing the mass evacuation and flooding farmland chest deep in water. Families have been overnighted at the sound of sirens, came crying children and pets through the flooded street. We lost everything in an hour, said Rosa Martinez and displaced farm workers. The water came too fast that heat times that save anything. In the Bay Area, communities faced chaos and landslides, buried cars and closed rail lines. In the Santa Cruz, famous waterfront shops are damaged by power waves and inland reservoirs overflowing stranded supplies. Crew rushed a new Highway 17 where bullet the size of small cars and fallen onto the asphalt. The storm was subsided in the aftermath of only beginning to be acid. In the coastal communities from the natural coast to Tampa Bay on the Keys, homeowners are cleaning up flooded rooms and evade souvenirs while volunteers are distributing bathing water and traps. Officials report dozens of injuries and several deaths, but it not slowly. Green losers, ruined planes, flooded cars, solid crews and will reverberate for months. Rescue teams racing against time to save families from rooftops and stand motorists from the rising water pipes. We were waist deep in water, holding down on daughter crept above the water, recalls Malca Alvarez. Neighbors were barely know with the howling standards of the midnight. Shelters were overloaded with the pets of people, and local churches and businesses quickly became coordination centers and donation to the hot meals. The damage to infrastructure is extensive. Salt water and coordinated roads and bridge sewage system are overflowing, and electrical substations have been knocked down by the flooding. Energy companies working their shift to restore power, but the many small streets remain without electricity, complicating recovery efforts and the increasing of a risk and a food polish to generator issue. This week, Alaska has been hit by violent storm and damaged coastline, knocked down trees and caused sudden waves in a midway from Gusts and low-lying area. From Juneau to Anchorage, emergency service rushed to clear highways, restore power, and reinforce river banks, while a residents assessment damage searching for missing pets and the salvaged family heirlooms. In the capital, a dramatic geyser breaking down in mid-hill catchment area, causing a rapid flood wave in overflowing local protective structures to cause the record water level in a mid-hill rivers. Residents of Iran near the riverbanks reported flooded yards and badly damaged small bridges. Quick action to authority and volunteers helped prevent more casualties. Across South Central Alaska, hurricane force winds uprooted centrally old poor streets and broke power lines, leaving thousands of people without power to several hours. Airports and ferries were shut down to runways and narrow were cleared to debris. Communities that depended to maritime transportation immediately felt in the impact. Officials said unusually warm air in a period atmosphere intensified system caused strong winds and more intense coastal waves that predicted. Torrential rain and severe thunderstorm battered much of Texas, caused widespread flooding, property damage, and mass evacuation in several counties. The multi-day weather event caused a slow-moving low-pressure system, causing chaos in the such as Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and parts of East Texas. Horace County received more than 300 mm of rainfall in 36 hours, causing bayou, drainage canals, and flood control reservoirs to overflow. The Buffalo Bayou and the Bryce Bayou overflowed flood residential area to force an emergency service to conduct more than 500 rescue operations in Greater Houston area. Governor Greg Abbott declared a state of emergency in more than 13 countries, mobilizing Texas National Guard and activating Emergency Operations Center. This is not just heavy rain, Abbott said in a new conference. This is life-threatening flooding that require immediate action. In Austin, flash floods turned roads into rivers, blocking vehicles and forcing dozens of water rescue. Several low-lying crossings were washed away, and the schools in Travis County were closed to safety reasons. Meanwhile, in the Dallas, floods warned heavy rain overflowing through drained, closing major interstate highway, including section in I-35 and I-20. The National Weather Service issued a flood warning that most of central southwestern Texas, north and the saturated soil, and additional rainfall could prolong to the crisis. Experts from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration warned that the climate trends to contributing for more frequent and intense rainfall for the southern United States. massive storm system has covered a destructive path across the central and eastern United States, bringing life-threatening floods, hurricane-force winds, and widespread blackouts as emergency crews race to reach isolated communities. The storm, described by meteorologists as one of the most volatile this season, drenching several states with a record-breaking rainfall, triggered with water rescue and closed major highways. In part of Kentucky and Tennessee, a river burst their banks overnight, submerged entire neighborhoods within minutes. Local officials say the flooding is unlike anything seen in years. The water rose at the fast people had to time to reach, said one emergency coordinator, noting that several families have flooded to rooftops and rescue boats. When it gets stopping 18 million hours, uprooted trees, damaged roofs, and snapped power lines, leaving hundreds of thousands without electricity, from Michigan down to Mississippi. Airports in multiple states report delayed and powerful crosswind wake attacks of tornadoes.